Yo, welcome back. I'm Clay, and today I'm breaking down Darktide sniper rifle that for some reason doesn't have a scope. But even with that limitation, it still manages to be the best at farming all the scavs and dregs on every single mission. So we're going over everything about the Helbore Lasgun, from the perfect build to how you should be using it to unlock its true potential. But even with all of its potential, I don't know if it's enough for it to be a god tier weapon without a scope. So you'll have to let me know what you think about it after you see it in action. So here's me fighting two beast bosses at the same time on tier 3 endless hordes, and you can see when I get that sweet spot, I start tearing these things apart. And even when I'm just shooting them anywhere, it actually does some pretty serious damage. And when I caught this big thick Ogren RPing, I tore his head off in only a couple of seconds. So as you can see, there is a ton of potential here, and it can go above and beyond a lot of other weapons in the game. But before we do get started, I am still doing the 7 Gifts of Nurgle Darktide giveaway, where if you get this video to 1k likes and comment hashtag ZerkerGang, I'll give away a copy of Darktide or a Steam card equivalent if you already own it to a random subscriber. But not only that, all the videos in the description are participating in the same kind of giveaway. So good luck, and for now, I'm gonna light this off back in the tier 5 Damnation training room with the sniper build. If you've been watching the other videos, you already know what it is, but just to show you, without your alt pop, it's 4 to 6 hits on a crusher and 2 to 3 hits on a ravager. So it does some pretty extreme charged up damage. And before we go any further, if you don't have this perk on this gun for the charge rate, it's not even worth using at all. Being able to rapid charge is the only reason this thing's good at all. And if you can actually get the perk for plus 50% weak point crit damage, this thing might actually be able to go insane, but I haven't gotten it to purple or legendary yet. That's what I've been grinding for. So I'll let you guys know what this weapon's like when it hits legendary and if I can get those perks. I just don't know if that's allowed on it yet, so we have to do more testing and more upgrading. But the build starts off with confirmed kill because you're elite hunting so hard with this thing, it's always giving you a ton of extra toughness. Second is sniper, because you actually get to take a massive advantage of the amount of range damage you get from this thing. Third is target priority. It's just way too good for team play. Fourth, duck and dive or camo expert. This is a personal pref. I really love duck and dive comboed with our 5th row dead shot. And for the melee weapon, just makes it absolutely go sicko mode. But it really just lets you have an infinite amount of crit chance with 0 weapon sway in a firefight. Then on the last row, counterfire comes in insanely clutch on almost every single difficulty because your alt ends up almost always being up. Just the ability to constantly snipe all the scav and dreg shooters, elites, whatever it may be, really puts you in a spot where you can almost indefinitely have this thing up and clutch a firefight. But if your group does struggle with big boys, use the bigger they are. That's what let me tear those big bosses apart, like the Beast and the Ogren. It literally trivializes those bosses to the point where you don't even have to think about them, and it makes the Ogren crushers and ravagers just insanely easy to deal with. Because with our ult up, we can one-shot a ravager and just keep going ham on everything else too, and it's only, again, a couple of shots to deal with the crusher. But one of the main problems I had is this weapon was more mentally draining than anything else, oddly enough. I think just spam charging the gun is what I don't really like, and having to shoot it down iron sights. And it also kind of sucks that it has no penetration, can only hit its first target, which I'm going to talk about a little later when I compare it to other weapons. But it is really cool to sprint and use the bayonet at the same time. It actually makes you feel like you're doing some sort of epic charge. But when you do get locked in, this thing really is the star of the show. Just watch. You can really take out anything except like a light horde with this thing, and that would probably be its only real weakness, but you do have grenades for that anyways. But I don't recommend you use your grenades on hordes of enemies. I recommend you use them on the bosses to stun lock them so that you can take them out quickly, just like I recommended in the bolter and the plasma gun video. So one-shotting every elite on the hardest difficulties on every map is insanely rewarding, especially with the distance you get on it, and it really lets you pop off on tier 5 with just a 400 blue power version of this gun. My only problem was when you do get overwhelmed, it is too much for the gun unless you get ramped up charging. So there's a lot that I expected of the future of this gun, and it might just take the spot as the most well-rounded gun for me that I can only play 1 or 2 games with before I honestly just get annoyed of using it. And again, I paired it with a power sword because it's just too good at dealing with everything, and it's basically just become my permanent melee weapon at this stage. There's nothing that even comes close to it for me. So honestly, I think if this weapon had any kind of scope, it would actually be a god tier weapon, because there's a lot of time where you lose track of enemies or simply can't abuse your range the way you want to because the iron sights are so limited after a certain distances, or in a firefight, it is hard to actually see down the iron sights sometimes, especially if there's a flamethrower nearby. Unless you have some sort of servo eye implant or something, I guess. So I'd really like to see Fat Shark add in like an attachment one table or a scoped variant or like a legendary scoped variant, something like that. Because if the normal Lasgun has a hollow, I at least want that on my Helbore, because I want my enemies to turn the corners like this.
No fucking way.
Dude, if I knew the AI felt the same way I did about that, it would be something different. But honestly, that is just my biggest issue as a no-scope sniper. It sounds weird to say, and I get that the stock weapons of the Imperium are usually just bare bones, but we've worked our way up from convict prison clothes all the way to Inquisition guardsman armor. And yes, this is the penance armor, and no, I did not do the cheese. I earned it, which I also have a video coming out for you very soon for after they patch it, because inevitably they will get rid of the cheese way to do it, and it will be comboed into the ultimate veteran guide, so look forward to that. So overall, this weapon feels like a lot of work for a mediocre reward, with its only advantage over the other Lasguns being really good armor pen, and none of the other Lasguns can really penetrate armor at all, so you're basically left not being able to kill crushers, but that's not really a big deal at all if you're comfortable using your power sword to deal with those situations. So when I compare the Helbore Lasgun to the Recon fully auto Lasgun, there's just no contest. That thing is just good in every single situation except anti-armor, and it cleans everything medium to light out insanely fast. Hordes, it just doesn't matter. The thing is just too good, and it's brain dead to use. It has no recoil, spot on, and it sounds amazing. So you really have to think, when you have to kill like 3,000 mobs a game on endless hordes, or 0 if you count the end of this screen. I know there's no scoreboard. It's getting ridiculous at this stage. You have to think, when I talked about getting mentally drained on those higher difficulties with too many mobs, when you have to kill so many things with the iron sights, you're charging up and shooting over and over and over again. There's just something about it where you want to turn your brain off and just go burr. So personally, for now, I'm walking away from the Helbore Lasgun. I don't think it's worth it to use over the Recon Lasgun just because of the level of fire that thing provides. And it definitely does not even come close to the Emperor's Holy Bolter. It just does everything the Helbore Lasgun does better. Like if you're sniping, it's just not even close, because you don't have to wait on a charge and you can just shoot whenever you want. And both iron sights suck, so that's not even a comparison. And if you use the sniper build, neither one has any sway, but removing the sway from the bolter completely makes it a different beast. But on top of that, it penetrates enemies, making any kind of choke an absolute farm fest. And that's just aimed in. When we compare the hipfire, there's absolutely no competition to the bolter in the game, because the bolter shreds everything, and all you have to do is turn your brain off and hold LMB down while dreaming about the Emperor and how much he'd praise you for doing such a good job with his holy weapon, the mighty bolter. And if you want to learn how to really bring the Emperor's wrath down on your enemies with this absolute unit of a gun, go check out this video right here. It's a full breakdown of the bolter with the best possible feats to take for the weapon and the best perks to have on it, so that you can breeze through the hardest difficulties. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure you join the Discord down in the description if you want to keep up to date with everything that I'm doing. Now enjoy this bonus clip of me getting owned.
Oh my god!